Today, January the 27th, also marks International Holocaust Remembrance Day right around the globe. People are paying their respects and remembering the victims of Nazi atrocities in which some 6 million Jewish people died. However, a recent poll in the UK has suggested a growing number of people are unaware of the Holocaust or simply deny that it happened. Well, to discuss this, I'm joined on the programme by Efraim Zurov, the director of the Israeli office for the Simon Wiesenthal Centre on Eastern European Affairs. We appreciate your take on this day, the Holocaust Remembrance Day, of course. A recent poll, as we've been talking about, has suggested around 2.6 million Britons are denying the Holocaust. That's the equivalent of 1 in 20 UK adults. How shocked are you by that figure?
I think it's quite shocking and surprising. But it's not the only problematic figure in this survey. In other words, you have 5% who deny, 8% who are convinced that the numbers are exaggerated, 20% think that the number of victims is less than 2 million, and 45% don't even know. So I think you're combining anti-Semitism with abysmal ignorance.
It is a startling number, and it's not only the UK, according to other polls. What are the consequences if fewer people are actually aware of the Holocaust?
Well, the basic idea behind Holocaust education is that the tragedy that we call the Holocaust has lessons for humanity about the dangers of hatred, the dangers of anti-Semitism, racism, fascism. And obviously, we think that it's important that people study the Holocaust to learn from that tragedy and to try in that manner to prevent the recurrence of such a tragedy.
When you look at that figure, 1 in 20 UK adults not believing that the Holocaust actually took place at all, what do you put that down to?
No, that's not the figure. It's not 1 in 20, right.
1 in 20
UK
adults, 2.6 million Britons.
Right.
What do you put? What do you put it down to, Efraim? A rise of nationalism across Europe, or at least an increase in that? What has your centre found out?
Let's make one thing clear. Holocaust denial is simply a new form of anti-Semitism. The Holocaust is the most documented tragedy in human history. There are millions, I repeat, millions of documents that prove the crimes of the Holocaust. There's no basis for this denial. It's totally absurd. So why do people do it? It's basically a new form of anti-Semitism, because imagine what would happen if it turns out that the Holocaust did not happen. Obviously, that would be a very bad situation for the Jewish people all over the world.
You know, at the same time, most people would be hard-pushed to give factual details about other genocides. Today is also the 25th anniversary of the occurrence in Rwanda, when millions of people died. When you look at such a thing, could it be down a lot of this to a simple lack of knowledge?
Listen, it's not only a question of knowledge, it's also a question of deterrence. You know, when the camps were liberated, in other words, the camps in Germany were liberated by the British and the Americans, and Auschwitz was liberated by the Russians, and the world was exposed to the scope of Nazi atrocities, the phrase "never again" was coined. And I'm sure that the people who coined that phrase had good intentions and were really determined that such a thing would never happen again. But on the other hand, so many tragedies have occurred since that are not the Holocaust, thank God, but they have some similar characteristics. And the question you ask yourself, and I ask myself, is how is that possible after the horrors of the Holocaust were exposed? And I think that one of the answers, or one of the factors that is very important to take into account, is the fact that the number of people responsible for these crimes who are brought to justice is not that large. Or let's put it this way, the percentage is not that large. And I think when people today contemplate joining genocidal movements or Islamic fundamentalist movements, first question they ask themselves is, will I be caught? What will happen if I'll be caught? Will I be held accountable? And if you look at the figures for the people involved in the Holocaust, a relatively small percentage of the people who were responsible for these crimes were actually put on trial and punished.
How can society actually go about, therefore, changing the views of people who actually deny that this happened, that 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust?
Well, it has to take place on two different levels. One level is the level of leadership, that the leaders of the world, the leading political leaders in every country have to make clear that this is a fact, that this happened, and this has very important consequences for their country as well. And then there's the question of the educational systems. In other words, this is a subject that has to be taught in the school curriculum at the proper age and to be done effectively and with the best technological and other educational aids.
You feel that's not happening in schools enough, just finally?
No, listen, there's no question that it's happening in many schools all over the world. And as someone who gives lectures at Yad Vashem, the Israeli National Memorial, to hundreds of teachers every year who come from all over the world to teach the Holocaust, there's no question that some very excellent Holocaust education is taking place. But it's almost impossible to reach everybody. And the figures that you presented from this survey about the UK clearly show that.
And I suppose, you know, when you look at those figures, is it the younger generation simply being ignorant about this frame? Because there's a lot of things, when you look into details about history, they simply do not know the facts of. And this is something that needs to be pressed home, particularly younger stage in education. Would you agree with that?
Listen, it should not be pressed home at too young a stage. That's a different problem. In other words, it has to be started in the, let's say, 8th grade or 9th, 10th grades, but not before that. In other words, you don't want to scare these kids out of their minds, and it's not appropriate. So this has to be done in a proper manner, at the right age, in the right way. And this is really a challenge, a tremendous challenge to the educational systems in countries all over the world. But I have to say that many people are taking up this challenge, and many people are doing an excellent job, and that's why many people are knowledgeable about the Holocaust. By the way, one thing that's not clear is the ages of those people who deny the Holocaust, the ages of the people who think, in other words, who are not sure that 6 million were murdered, or people underestimate, etc. That's not clear from this survey.
Yeah, thank you so much, though, for coming today on the programme and explaining all that on this day, Holocaust Memorial Day. We've been speaking to Efraim Zuroff, Director of the Israeli Office for the Simon Wiesenthal Center in Eastern European Affairs. Go ahead, your last thought.
Comment. Yeah. Allow me to correct you.
Sure.
Today is not the anniversary of the 25th anniversary of the genocide in Rwanda. That genocide started in April, not in January.
No, absolutely, but it's being marked by a lot of people in London today. But thank you so much for giving us your thoughts today, sir.